My question this week kind of has to do with my question last week. We talked about loving ourselves and that I should try and calm the necessity to have to be perfect all the time about it. And I was just wondering if you had any more advice on it because I'm doing better, but I could still improve on it. I just have these like negative thoughts sometimes and I can't shoo them away about it. So can you help me with that, please?
Yeah, either I misspoke last week or you misheard or misunderstood. You don't have to calm it down, right? We think of it like that. We think we can let the emotions calm down and we can experience it like that. So we mentioned, for example, if you had a glass and it was full of something on the bottom and it got stirred up, it would all be cloudy. And if you just waited, the water would settle and the sediment would settle and then you would have clear water again. So when you sit, you can just sit long enough and you can let the sediment settle. You can do that. So when you're doing your practice, getting rid of negative thought, you don't ever really get rid of it. That's kind of a misunderstanding. You feel as people expect that their mind is going to be blank and that all will be light and joyous and angels will come down from the heavens. That's what they're expecting. But the reality is the mind just does what it does. The goal is not to stop the mind. The goal is to not attach to the content. So when you have negative thoughts, they're just thoughts. They're not actually even negative. They're only negative in the sense that they're harmful to you or others, right? There is no thought in your mind that's good or bad. It's either useful or not useful, okay? So you try not to attach and to give it more energy because you're wrestling with it, you're fighting with it, right? Have you ever been able to win that fight in your dream when the monster comes? You ever win? Sometimes you might. You might have a powerful dream where you get the big sword and you cut off the head. Does a monster stay gone forever? Never does. It's funny, it never does. It always comes back another night. I was at a temple and I was having really scary dreams. And I was telling the monk, the Zen master, I was like, I'm having these crazy scary dreams. And I have to run away from these monsters. And he said, stop running. I was like, I can't. It's like, why not? He said, because they might eat me. And he says, so what? I said, well, what happens if they eat me? And he looked at me in a huge grin and he said, it's wonderful. So our fear of something is much different than the actual experience. When you have a fear, if you saw the monster and you turned around and you were just present for it, and let's say he got really big and really scary and he went to eat you, he would just dissipate. He wouldn't actually eat you, right? It would be like a wave crashing and then it would have a crescendo and finish. So all emotions are experienced like that. This desire for more whatever, love or fear, whatever emotion, they're all experienced in these ways. So you do your practice, you try not to attach. What I was trying to say, I think that what you misunderstood is that to return to your true nature, to your original self. If you return to your original self, all things are healed. You return to your original self and then you just stay and heal. So this is an interesting thing that really can't be explained because you have to experience it. You have to feel what it is to stay with your pain and to let it heal on its own. You cannot heal it. You have to let it heal. The hole in your heart cannot be closed with force. It cannot be filled with anything on earth. You have to just wait, and what happens is it closes on its own. You just have to be present for all of the pain of it. So you just stay present with it. It's uncomfortable. right? Because our first reaction is always to run away or to fight. To run away or to fight. I want love. That means someone doesn't love me, so I want to run away from that feeling of not being loved. Or I want to get rid of this need for love, so I want to somehow stuff it down and fight with it. Our reactions are always the same, more or less, more or less. Run to, run away. So the middle way is to neither run to nor run away. It's to stay in the center and to let it be there, and then you will heal. The stronger your center gets, the more you practice, what happens is your heart can and will grow. You know what's interesting is that it's an infinite possibility because there's no heart to shatter. We're like, my heart's going to break. It's too much for me, right? It's not true. There's no heart to shatter. You're just holding on to this limited idea. And when you let that go, you start to tap into your true nature, which is infinite in possibility, infinite in capacity. And you start to experience that. Wow, these ideas are only ideas. These thoughts and feelings are only thoughts and feelings. I am not the I that I think I am. Now what? Right, now what happens? Is a good question. So that's a whole different set of issues. That's a question of like, now what is purpose? So a Zen answer would be, if you see a hungry man, give him food. Okay, then you start to extend your natural nature. So the meditative response, the Zen response, how I would try to emphasize it for you, instead of playing with the psychological pieces, because you can play with them forever and they're infinitely fascinating. Like, why don't I have love, mommy and daddy? I don't know, I could find this and that. You can put the pieces together in infinite ways, and you think that there's a better combination out there. Instead of doing all of that, just put all of that down. Returning to your true nature means sitting with the very strong discomfort of this feeling of not having love. It's very uncomfortable, this loneliness of it, this yearning for it, right? The sadness of it. Just really sit there with it. And if you sit there with it long enough, it will pass and your body and your mind and your heart will heal. And then from that healing, there's a transformation. You don't become someone new, you become who you always were. You let some of that baggage go. Heart starts to open. You see a little bit more clearly. You start to notice that you have more love to give. Right? So just stay and heal. The more you sit, like when you're at home, we're all busy doing everything that we all do, and we're distracted all the time, but you come to a group, you meditate, you sat 30 minutes together, and eventually these kinds of things come up and you're in a more stable environment to deal with it, right? So the more stable the environment is, the more you can let it come up in a stable environment. If you're at home and you start to feel the real yearning for it, the real desire for love that you're not having, what happens? It's like crack a bottle of wine, call your friend, Netflix goes on. Every distraction in life, you never get to the point where you can let yourself be there because it's too uncomfortable. We search for distraction. We search for distraction. So I would say stay. You keep returning. You return and you stay. The more you return, the more you stay, the more your original nature will become clear to you, until one day you'll really see it. You'll be like, oh, you'll wake up. And then you'll realize that when you wake up, there's a tremendous transformation. This karmic momentum, the baggage of countless eons, it's really not so heavy. You have to experience these things, like otherwise they're just pretty words. Sometimes they're not helpful. So the answer for you is don't think of the magic combination or the magic self-help tip or tool. Just stay. Be uncomfortable. Okay? Does that help?
Mm-hmm. I think I understand now.
Good. Work on it. Tell me how you do.
Thank you.